This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Janice Pons. I am the host on this podcast. From Destruction to Dignity, Clinical Perspectives, Spiritual Truths. Tonight, we're going to continue this amazing journey that we've been on together, my brothers and sisters, my fellow Americans, as we the people. We have been focused on a specific path related to gaining a clearer understanding regarding how our nation's structured, how it's supposed to work. That beautiful flag behind me is a great symbol connected to our amazing nation. This is our presidential seal. This reminds us to pray for our president. I'm continuing to pray for we the people, the 265,900,000 Americans that we identified were living paycheck to paycheck, barely making ends meet last year in 2024. We're believing that things are turning around. It's going to take a minute. It's going to take some time, but we're believing things that a change is going to come and things are going in the right direction. And that financially people are going to do better. 79% of Americans felt the country was going in the wrong direction. And they voted accordingly and said, we need change. We don't like the direction that the country is going in. And they issued a mandate. We issued a mandate loud and clear. We had an election. We, the people, spoke. And we said that we wanted change. We didn't like the dynamics. And I would always ask, and I still ask, who needs to be the leader of America? What is at stake? Does it matter who's in the White House? Does it matter who's on Capitol Hill? That determination has been made. And tonight, we're going to look at something that has generated a lot of discussion in our nation. What happened on January 6, 2021? It's been 4 years since January 6, 2021, where what was coined as Capitol riots transpired. Democrats and the legacy media have used the event to label Trump and his supporters as violent and anti-democratic to convince the nation that Trump intentionally incited an insurrection to overturn the election results and to rewrite history by claiming that it was the darkest day America has ever seen, and he was trying to overturn the 2020 election results. This narrative resulted in prison sentences for hundreds of Americans, many of whom were non-violent attendees. And once he got in office, some were they were pardoned. They were pardoned. Oh yeah. Others have been pardoned. Shout out to Bevelyn Beatty Williams, who got pardoned for this abortion. She's always been preaching the gospel in front of an abortion clinic. Anyway, orchestrated lawfare was used against her. They told her they were going to make an example out of her. Shout out to Bevelyn, Ricky, and Ellie. Yes, Eleanor Williams. I'm happy for them. God bless them as they go on. They were pardoned. Orchestrated lawfare. Now listen, let's talk about orchestrated lawfare. Stick with me about January 6th, because a lot of things are coming out that hadn't come out before. As time has gone on, the narrative surrounding January 6th has been unraveling as more information has come to light. Do we need to be knowing what that is? I say yes. The truth is, so much of what we've been told about January 6th is a bona fide lie. What really happened on January 6th reveals the truth about our government, its accountability, and the lengths that it will go to preserve its version of a story, even when it's a lie, when they're saying things that are not true. And I'm telling you what, the history of this nation, they have constantly lied to us. This is exactly, when I started learning the truth, this is why I wrote Stealing the Minds of America. This is on Amazon.com. I had been strategically lied to over and over again. They have not told us history accurately told. And God had me go back to original documents to the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s. And I spent years reading the newspaper that was existing during the Civil War. I was blown away. My mind had been effectively and strategically stolen, and I learned that I could take it back because they lied. We haven't been told the truth. We weren't told the truth about COVID-19. We haven't been told the truth about January 6th. We just haven't. We haven't been told the truth. That is the truth. So these things, I'm just saying things that have come out. I'm not creating things. Okay. So they lied about, they were talking about these pipe bombs. In the afternoon of January 6, 2021, Americans were warned that there were 2 pipe bombs, now listen to this now, that were capable of causing catastrophic harm. And they were found near the RNC and the DNC headquarters. So if that was the case, why, come on, you see, you got to use logic and deductive reasoning. If that was the case, why was Vice President-elect Kamala Harris rushed to the DNC if they knew that? And why did the Secret Service delete all the records related to Harris's whereabouts? Now we know that the January 6th files were not all preserved. They just were not. Communications are missing. Why? Where did those documents go? Now we know the investigation into those 2 pipe bombs was woefully insufficient. Why would it be? Surveillance footage was ignored. Cameras were turned off hours before the pipe bombs were purportedly laid. Cell phone data in both places, we were told, was corrupted. That's what's come out. Bombshell reports have since revealed that the data was not corrupted according to the cell phone companies. They were never asked, listen, they weren't even asked to turn over the information to the FBI. Why? Why? Critical leads went unpursued. Why? 4 years later, questions about the bomber's identity still remain unanswered. Why the lack of investigation into a critical incident that could have harmed our vice president and destroyed the republic? We don't want anybody getting hurt. We want her, Biden, everybody to be protected. Why would they subject her to that? Why? But they said, no, there were these pipe bombs. Why wasn't it investigated? Why has it been dropped? Listen, let's keep going. All this is coming out now. All this is coming out. Here's food for thought. What if the pipe bombs were nothing more than a convenient distraction? We've seen it over and over again. They've done it. They've stolen our minds by distracting us. That's their modus operandi. A justification to escalate security measures and cast a broader shadow over what they hope would unfold that day. Suppose that's the case. Adding that it is our duty as citizens. Listen. We're supposed to ask questions. Why? Because the government lies. Why was testimony, that this is real important, because I heard his interview at least 3 times. Why was the testimony of the former chief of police of Washington, D.C. not allowed? His name is Stephen Sund, S-U-N-D. Go look at the interview that Tucker Carlson did with the chief of police of Washington, D.C. It's on Rumble. Look at it. It's worth your looking at. let's look at the FBI informants. We also know as a fact now that 26 FBI informants were on the Capitol grounds that day, but didn't actually enter the building. What were they doing there? Were they amongst the crowd? Were they infiltrating the crowd? Were they guiding behavior? Were they acting as provocateurs? What were they doing? What was the purpose of these 26 FBI informants who were working with the Biden, Harris, Obama behind the scene organization as it related to 2020? The presence of those 26 informants raises troubling concerns about how much of January 6th was actually organic. Or, listen, this is so important. Was it just organic? When I was at the inauguration, Trump's inauguration, and all the activities and the balls, everything was organic. It was not orchestrated. Was what happened on January 6th organic or orchestrated? I tell you what was orchestrated, that the media cabal, they all were saying the same thing. Donald Trump was orchestrating an insurrection. They all said the same thing, and there he was. It was recorded, and they refused to show it, but it's out there if you listen. And he just said, "Go home peacefully. Let your voice peacefully be heard." But what we heard on the news was not that. What about Pelosi and media squashing Trump's authorization of the National Guard? They won't let that come to the forefront. The media, the mainstream cabal, will not talk about it. Why? He did. It's now been verified as facts that 2 days prior to January 6th, January 4th, 2 days prior, Donald Trump indeed authorized the deployment of the National Guard, citing concerns over potential unrest at the Capitol on January 6th. However, his concerns went totally ignored. It just was ignored. His offer was rebuffed by Nancy Pelosi and the Capitol Police. But listen to the interview by the former chief of police of Washington, D.C., Stephen Son, and you're going to hear the truth of what really happened. They have been lying to us, gaslighting us, guys. Who in the chain of command chose to disregard this presidential directive? Then the mainstream media ignored Trump's offers to deploy the National Guard, instead blasted out the narrative that he wanted the chaos. It's a bona fide lie. This glaring omission from mainstream narrative exposes just how much the January 6th story has been manipulated to fit a preconceived conclusion, guys. Then there's the death of Ashley Babbitt. Ashley Babbitt, a decorated Air Force veteran, was shot and killed on live TV by a Capitol police officer while attempting to climb through a broken window. But they said her death was ruled justified almost immediately. However, bombshell reporting has since revealed that the officer who shot her has been shielded, and he's been cited as a hero. And actually, it's under investigation for misconduct so severe that it could lead to criminal charges. That man, listen, there's a lot behind that man and his story. That story about Ashley Babbitt was buried under the mountain of political narratives. And when you hear the truth, and I pray to God that it all comes out. Oh, yeah. January 6th wasn't about Trump supporters or Democrats in the media. It was about a system that thrives on division and chaos, a system that uses fear to control us. If federal agencies can lie to us, manipulate, and withhold the truth about January 6th, what are they not capable of doing? See, they were unchecked. All of this provokes thought and brings awareness for us as a nation. What would our leaders want us to be subjected to? Gaslighting. What is gaslighting? Why were they gaslighting us? Why were they gaslighting us? Gaslighting is a form. Listen, you got to get this, guys. Listen to me. Gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse that involves manipulating someone into questioning their reality. They've constantly had us in a tailspin of questioning our reality. The abuser may use lies, denial, other manipulative tactics to make the victim feel confused and dependent on them. The Democratic Party has mastered that, and those rhinos have done the same in this nation, and they've targeted particular groups at a whole other level with specificity. Let me tell you how it works. They distort reality. They're abusive. They deny facts, feelings, or the situation. They create doubt. This is how gaslighting works. And this is what they've done to us as a nation. The abuser may try to make the victim question their own memories and their thoughts and their behaviors. You know, that's not what really happened. That's not how y'all really feel. They gain control. The abuser, they may try gaslighting us, guys, as a nation. We've been abused. Will try to make us as victims feel like that they can't trust themselves, or we need to rely on the abuser. We need to rely on them to tell us what we need to do and how to think. This is dangerous, guys. Why is it dangerous? Gaslighting can make it difficult to leave an abusive relationship. Let me tell you what, their political thrust that people cut that relationship with. I did. When I saw who was really behind slavery, sharecropping, Jim Crow. My great-grandmother was a slave. My daddy was a sharecropper, was born on a plantation. I grew up under Jim Crow, and I'm supposed to vote for the very people that were pushing that as their agenda? Are you kidding me? I broke off from that abusive relationship. The other ones wasn't perfect, but they wasn't pushing that. It can cause the victim to feel isolated, anxious, confused, depressed, trying to figure it out. Here are some examples of gaslighting. They will minimize or dismiss your feelings. Trump didn't. They will lie about or deny something even when presented with evidence. A parent who does it, they can be overly critical of your decisions. Well, they do that politically even. A popular student who deflects questions about their behavior, they don't like that. They don't want you asking questions. What if we decided to free ourselves from gaslighting? Guys, my fellow Americans, my brothers and sisters, suppose we say, you know what? I'm not participating in it anymore. What would happen if we prioritize self-validation? What would happen if we seek out support from trusted individuals? Support one another, pray for one another, meet together, take each other out for lunch, spend time together, document incidents. What would happen if we set clear boundaries? What would happen if we considered professional therapy if the situation is severe? We've been abused. We've been gaslit. Yeah. What would happen if we remember that we're not to blame and our reality is valid? Even if the gaslighter tries to convince you otherwise. They gaslight people in churches. I sat in churches and the gaslighting that was going on, I was like, oh my God. And they handed out newspapers to black people to continue the gaslighting. Listen, how do we get free from gaslighting? Listen, we have to recognize the signs. Pay close attention. What would happen if we pay close attention to behaviors like denial? D-E-N-I-A-L. You know, I went through that. D-E-N-I-A-L. Don't even notice I am lying. We end up lying, getting in agreement with them. Pay close attention to the denial, the lies, the contradictions, the shifting the blame, minimizing of our feelings, twisting our words, making us doubt our own perceptions. Pay attention. What would happen if we pay attention to those things? What would happen if we learn to trust our gut? If something feels off, or we repeatedly feel like we're being questioned about our own experiences, it could be gaslighting. That happens in churches a lot. Oh, yeah. What if we talk to trusted people, get together and just process and hear our thoughts? Sometimes you just need to hear what you're thinking out loud. I do, and I say that. I need to hear what I'm thinking. Anybody knows me, my circle, they know. Listen, I need to hear what I'm thinking. And they'll, okay, what's going on? My son, what's going on, Mom? I love him. I love people that love me. I love them. We hear what we're thinking, and we get answers. What would happen if we share our concerns with friends, family members, or therapists who can provide objective support and validation? What would happen if we document incidents that we're going through? What would happen if we keep a record of specific instances of gaslighting, including dates, times, and details of what happened? This mess that's going on in churches where people are showing up and being abused. What would happen if we set boundaries? What would happen if we clearly communicate our needs and expectations, and we're firm in upholding those boundaries when faced with gaslighting behavior? What would happen if we avoid engaging in arguments? Gaslighters thrive on conflict. They create conflict. That's their modus operandi. So what would happen if we stay calm when we state our position and we disengage and pull back? What would happen if we focus on self-care? We're talking about getting healthy as a nation. What would happen if we prioritize activities that bring us joy and support our mental well-being, like exercise, hobbies, spending time with supportive people? I love spending time with supportive people, going out to lunch and blessing them and just being with them and just talking together. What would happen if we seek professional help? It's a good thing to do. If gaslighting is significantly impacting your life, and it has impacted us as a nation, consider individual therapy. I am a proponent of the individual therapeutic process. You can go on JanicePons.com, my website, go to the resource page. It will direct you on exactly how to find a therapist. You can get coping mechanisms. You can build your self-esteem. You can learn that it's not your fault. Gaslighting. What is it about? It's a form of manipulation, and you are not responsible for the gaslighter's behavior. It's going on in churches. It's going on in jobs. It's a whole different presentation under religious auspices. Safety has to come first. If you feel physically or emotionally threatened, prioritize your safety. Consider creating a safety plan. And sometimes you got to get out of there. You got to get out. People threatening you and abusing you from pulpits and from platforms. If you're going somewhere and you're being abused, hello, think it through. Be patient with yourself. What would happen if we're patient with each other and ourselves? Listen, nobody should be anywhere getting abused, guys. No, This is why you got to document stuff. It can be helpful to write it down. Absolutely write it down. Oh, yeah. What would happen if we heal from gaslighting? It can take time. It does take time. What would happen if we're kind to ourselves and focus on our own well-being? Did you hear me? Your own well-being. Don't you ever let anybody talk you out of focusing on your own well-being, your own sustenance. Don't, listen. You have to eat. You have to have a roof over your head. You have to have your own well-being for you and yours and your children. Letting people gaslight you. What have we looked at tonight? Oh, yeah. We're looking at the power. Yeah, there's some things we just got to be honest about, guys. We looked at the power of rejecting the lies from politicians and those in leadership and authority that really don't have our best interests in mind. They're selfishly motivated. And we've looked at from a clinical perspective the dynamics of gaslighting. Listen, I went I'll go all the way in because these things are what's going on in our nation. And on this podcast, I want to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point us together in terms of interventions, things to think about. What would happen if? What would happen if we look at our path for our own wellness from the perspective of it being observable and measurable? What will I be seen doing that lets me know I'm getting well, that I'm focusing on myself and my family? What would that look like? It's observable. It's measurable. For me, 4 out of 7 days, I need to be walking. That's measurable. 4 out of 7. 15 minutes each time if I can get it done. I need to drink water. I need to do certain things. It's observable and measurable. It's a certain way of thinking. What if we did that as a nation? We get well. Yes, we've been gaslit, guys. We've been gaslit. They've been lying to us. The January 16th, the COVID-19 thing is coming out. Things that we've been gaslight. We were shadow banned. Now it's like, well, no, we're not going to do that anymore. We'll see. I hope not, because I tell you what about this is shadow banning and all that. Trump has a 5-point plan about censorship. Oh, yeah, and he's going to have a digital Bill of Rights. Oh, yes. I love it. Can't wait to see it. I am so excited about us moving forward in our nation. Listen, we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The enemy was running roughshod over this nation and over us as fellow Americans. People lost their lives because of wicked hearts. But it's a new day. And we are going somewhere. It's expecting us when we get there. I'm excited about America. Can you tell? I want to thank you for showing up. For this this month, I've been talking about and thanking you. And I'm so appreciative of your contribution to this podcast growing. Last year in 2024, it grew 1,200%. That blows me away. To God be the glory. Thank you for sharing it for on the podcast platforms out there, Apple Podcasts and all the different ones. I'm like, wow, it's being listened to in other parts of the world. Thank you. God bless you. Listen, we're going somewhere. Yes, it's expecting us when we get there. Listen, I appreciate you. I love you, my brothers and sisters, my fellow Americans, and God bless you. And I will see you next week on this podcast, From Destruction to Dignity, Clinical Perspectives, Spiritual Truths. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
We are one power, strength is ours, liberty, been set free, education, affirmation, dedication, information, revelation.